Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka blenderhd, your buddy blenderhd, blenderhd on Twitter if you want to follow me there. This is the show where we go over last night's slate. We take a little bit of a review of some top players, some people that may have won a bunch of money last night, and we take a preview, somewhat of a preview of today's slate, which it's a 10-game slate, 7:30 start lock Eastern time, which is kind of weird for a 10-game slate. But we have a lot of bunched games together, a lot of 7:30, 8 o'clock games together, so that's good. And it's a 10-game slate, so that's even more likelihood that there be shenanigans. I think primarily we're focusing on the Warriors today, with Curry as highly doubtful and Oubre as pretty doubtful. So most likely your lineups will have some Warriors. Which ones they are, who knows? Who knows? But we'll talk a little bit about that. But as always, I answer your strategy questions. We talk a lot about strategy. We go off on tangents a lot of times here, right? Because I care about the people in the YouTube chat. I say, Mr. Meat Plow's back. Meat Plow's back, DFS Zarge Apocalypse, Daniel Hutchins, Max Coach One, Card Fan, Michael Payne, DJ Cicero, Matt Mears, John Johnson, Dreward 27, Stephen Martin, Tom. He's here also. So feel free to post your questions, your comments. You chat amongst yourself. A lot of times people answer each other's questions in the YouTube chat. If you're not here live, you could always listen on the podcast feed. You just go to iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Search for RotoGrinders DFS pregame show. Subscribe to that. Rate and review it on iTunes. And if you're on YouTube, you know what to do right now in the beginning of the show. Keep my apple juice cold. I got my apple juice for casual Fridays. It's a casual apple juice. So hit that thumbs up button, the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live for a casual Friday. It's casual. We're always casual here, right? We're casual here. What happened? What happened yesterday? What happened yesterday? Well, yesterday I did well in cash, right? DK Draftkings is finally in the green. 2 good days in a row, or 3 good days in a row, I think. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, no, 3 in a row. 4 of the past 5. We've dug ourselves out of a hole on DraftKings. Made a little bit of profit on Fanduel. Michael Bridges at the end of the game kind of killed that. That could have been so much more. I was going to cash on FanDuel anyway, but just the dollar amount. Like Michael Bridges' 40 points on FanDuel kind of took away like $1,000. But DraftKings very well. So we're at an all-time high. All-time high, almost up to 23,000 right here. You can see here in the chart. See, just like the stock market, we got support. We did technical analysis. We draw these little lines on the support, like down there. And then on the resistance on the top or something. I don't know. Does that matter? Does technical analysis matter for the stock market? Who knows? But we're at an all-time high right now in the green on all 3 sites. Doing well. Because yesterday was Conley was out. So we had the Jazz guys. A lot of people played Clarkson. He did horribly. But Ingles crushed. Ingles chalk completely destroyed. And then we got the guards for the Knicks yesterday. Quickly was out. Peyton was out. Rivers was out. I don't know. He's been out. So basically they started Burks, Barrett, and Frank Ntilikina. How do you pronounce that? I have no idea. Ntilikina? Do you pronounce the N? Is it a silent N or a silent T? It's one. Well, in the first half, he was kind of silent no matter what. I think he had 1.25 points after the first half, but then he got going. Scored 22 points, which is decent for it. I mean, he was min-price. That's a little over 7x. Another popular play to some extent in the same range was Chasson Randall. Michael Carter-Williams was ruled out. But Fournier and Gordon were in. I mean, he didn't do like horribly horrible. I mean, he was also like, he was 3,400. He got 13.75 points. Probably not going to cut it in GPP. But we could see here, like between RBX and JBC, like completely opposite. RBX 88. I don't want any of that cheap crap, right? Cheap chalk, 27% owned chalk. I don't want any of it, right? JBC was like, give it all to me. Give it all to me. But you can see with RBX 88, like he replaced the cheap chalk with like other cheap players. Like a lot of times what you do with constructions is when there's like cheap chalk, like really cheap. I'm talking about like when the primary build is going to be stars and scrubs, right? Because once you had Tilakina, I don't know how to pronounce that. Randall, you have both in the same lineup. You could just like pay up everywhere, right? You could play Westbrook, Randall. I mean, you needed those guys. Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards did well, right? He was only 8% owned. But in order to jam in those guys, you need the cheap guys. But most of the time, when you're fading the cheap guys, you're going balanced. Now, RBX 88 had a bunch of some balanced lines, but mostly like Randall was expensive. Like Randall wasn't like 8,800. He was 10K. So he had a bunch of Randall. He still had Randall. He had some Westbrook. But he was filling it in with a lot like Taj Gibson, 6%, Wancho, 6%, Cameron Payne, 18%, Bogdan, who he almost put up 10x, 10%, Jalen Noel and Naz Reid, Alex Caruso, Jackson Hayes. I mean, look, Jackson Hayes, Raul Neto, Dwayne Bacon, Robin Lopez. So I did kind of the contrarian of the contrarian move. Fading the cheap chalk and then replacing it with other cheap value. As we could see here in his fourth place lineup. He had Caruso at 1% and Naz Reid at 2%. Now, did it matter at that point? No. I mean, because Ntilikina put up a decent amount of points anyway. So Alex Caruso could have been. Actually, if he would have played Ntilikina, he would have, I don't know, no, he still wouldn't have won. Right? Caruso put up 19.75 and Ntilikina put up 22.5. So that's another 2.75 points. 2.75. That would have been he would have came in third. I mean, right? He would have he wouldn't have got up to 376.75. So yeah, so it cost him $5,000 by having Caruso there instead of Ntilikina. Is it a silent N or a silent T? Can it be a silent all of them? Are we ever going to roster him again? Is it going to matter? I don't know. But we could see that. So like if we go back to ownership, like we see JBC using him in a bunch of lineups and then paying up elsewhere. Like a lot of Ingram paying up. People played Michael Bridges, even on DraftKings. I understood him on Fanduel. Like I got that on Fanduel. I don't know if these were late swaps or something. I mean, he put up 40 points on both sides. I thought Bridges was more of a FanDuel play than a DraftKings play, but I guess it's 7% ownership. I think that's fine leverage. That's fine. So on FanDuel, that Suns prices were too cheap. I understood like Ayton. Like Ayton was much more popular on DraftKings. At least I got that. I didn't play Ayton, but I mean, I get it at least. I mean, the duds really were Clarkson and Ayton, even though Ayton was in the winning lineup. Right, we take a look here, Ayton. Snowflake in the winning lineup in the shoot around last night. But I mean, but when you have Westbrook, Ingles, Bogdan at 2% and Michael Bridges at 7%, Bullock, I mean, he had a game. That's a 9x from Bullock. Right? You needed Burks. Pretty much you needed Westbrook, definitely. Randall. I mean, this is pretty much the nuts. I mean, outside of Ayton. So sometimes you could have a snowflake and win. But you need to find wherever that leverage is in order to do it. Same score, whistles go woo. Yeah, same lineup. Like not one of these freak. It's like it's the same exact score but a different lineup. No, same lineup. No, is it? Yeah, it's the same lineup with Bogdan there. And Ski Basher underneath had basically Wancho and Naz Reid, Bradley Beal, Beal and Westbrook together. The two Utah players. Okay. You didn't need the cheapies. Like you didn't need Frankie Nicotine, or can I just call him that so I don't even have to bother trying to pronounce his name? Frankie N. Like he did fine for 3K. He put up 7x, but it was unnecessary. People played Moses Brown yesterday. I don't get that. Why was Moses Brown 20% owned with Horford back? Put up 14 points. I don't know. RBX played a bunch. Neil Corfield played a bunch. Brick 75 played a bunch. Nickelback for Life. Did I miss something? How many minutes were we projecting for Moses Brown yesterday? 20% owned? I don't know. Same for like Taylor Horton Tucker. These are like what ends up happening is where someone's a cheap value because people are out and they go off, they put up 10x, and then people still roster them like the next gay or the next slate or 2 slates, and they can't until their ownership goes down. So I would have never rostered these guys at this ownership. I guess some did Moses Brown. I don't know. Papagate said 0. The Colts had barely any. But I mean, people had 15%, 35%. I guess it's a fantasy points. He's a good fantasy points per minute player. If he gets the minutes, he gets there, I guess. I don't know. I don't get it. But of course I didn't win the shoot around. I didn't play the shoot around, but I wouldn't have won. Going through the YouTube chat a bit. Stephen Martin, Blender, if and when you play cash MLB. Okay, we'll go off on tangents on this show. Who cares? I thought people were going to explain to me how to pronounce Frankie N's last name. That's what I really want. If and when you play cash MLB, which I will be doing, do you find the optimal for cash once and while in a wild jams in a team stack? If so, do you shy away from that? No, whatever the top median lineup is, I don't care. If one team is so dramatically underpriced that they're the best value, then who cares? Then that's the lineup. Daniel Hutchins, life of an MME GPP player. Played 8 unique slates across 3 different sites yesterday. Lost 7 of them. Tied for second on 1. Total ROI 30%. Okay. All you need is one good. All you need is one good lineup. That's all you need. Blender, have you ever looked at a player's updated projection and thought it might be wrong, but played them anyway and paid the price? Why would I think it would be wrong? What would be wrong about it? The only thing in NBA would be like I don't agree with the minutes, the median minutes. But that's why I rely on the projections team for doing that. And that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm assuming Andy Means and Noto and Tuttle and all those guys, they know more than me about how many minutes to allocate. Maybe sometimes I could be a little bit more aggressive, right? I could go, okay, that's around the industry. Like, I don't know. Like, I'll look around and go, okay, I think we're being a little aggressive, but at least I have that in the back of my mind. But almost all the time, it's like, I'm going to defer to the people that know more about the sport than I do. So what would be wrong? I trust the model. The mathematics of the model, I trust. So as long as the minutes, right? If you put in that someone's going to play 74 minutes, obviously that's wrong, right? Because there aren't that many minutes in a game. So yeah, that would be a mess up. But I'm not going to do 30 minutes versus 28 minutes or whatever. Most of the time, I look at that and go, okay, that seems reasonable, given the situation. Sometimes the projections are fragile. The minutes are going to be fragile. You're making your best guess, your best median guess. So for like the Warriors today, how many minutes are we going to play? How many minutes are the Warriors going to play? So like Jordan Poole could play 36. He could play 22. He could play the Mannion could play 16 minutes. He could play 38. Who knows? So I mean, you're gonna have to put a middle there somewhere. So that's the only thing. But I mean, I'm gonna defer to the guys that know more about basketball than I do. Let's see. People are trying to say it's. Come on, Blender. You're spelling it out. You have to phonetically. Neely Kina. Okay, so Jonathan Laureano says it's a silent T. I always thought it was a silent N. I thought it was Frankie Tilakina. So it's Frankie Ntilikina. 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 Why can't we just get rid of the T then? Can we just tell him to get rid of the T? Jonathan Laureano also says, thanks, Blender, for telling us about the DK policy to refund ties and head-to-heads. Had no idea. Completely changes how I approach game selection. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you have to email. But on DraftKings, you don't. So if you tie, if you auto match on head-to-heads and you're tied, what do you wait 48 hours or so, 20, somewhere 2 or 3 days, you'll get a bonus reward, 80 cents, whatever the rake is. You'll get that back automatically. Michael Papadopoulos. Hi, Jordan. Trying to build an ownership projection model. Thinking about storing projected fantasy points, salary, and actual ownership, and try to find correlations. I don't know if that's wise. You can't past ownership is what does past ownership have to do with today's ownership? Past ownership doesn't matter. I mean, what's the past ownership on Jordan Clarkson? Yes, the slate before. What does it matter? It's a different salary, and Conley was in. Right? Alec Burks is 55% owned. What's his past ownership? And what does it matter? It all depends on what the context of the slate that you're currently playing. Why was Chassid Randall, Frank Ntilikina? Get rid of the T, for crying out loud. Like, why are they owned? Like, all you have to do is add more value, and these guys end up becoming even less owned or more owned. I mean, we take a look at, like, yesterday, for whatever, if Randall was out also. Well, then everyone would be playing all the Knicks. So how are you going to use that for predict ownership the next slate? I don't think it has anything to do with one another. I don't think you could look at past slates and predict ownership that way. Because it's always going to change. Depending on the pricing of the players. I mean, did we take a look at FanDuel? I mean, FanDuel, like Karis LeVert. I think Karis LeVert is probably still too cheap. We take a look at the optimal on FanDuel right now. I mean, we got White. He's probably still too cheap. Wiggins is 5,200. Why? They didn't realize that Curry's not out. So, like, look at all the Warriors they're going to be here. Aaron Gordon's 5,400. If he plays, how many minutes do we have him projected at right now? 32. Yeah, if he plays 32 minutes, you're going to play him on FanDuel. But if Aaron Gordon was 7,400, you wouldn't play him. So, like, what is the past ownership going to do anything in your model for current ownership? It depends. Let's say there were better values at power forward, then Aaron Gordon's ownership would go down. But on the past slate, it wouldn't. Maybe that didn't exist on the past slate. So I don't know how you'd use past ownership to predict current ownership, regardless of how much you backtest. And it's not related to one another. It's not the type of thing that a lot of people like playing a certain guy. They like playing a certain price, a position in the context of the slate. But the guy, Jimmy Butler, how much is he going to be owned based on the past 3 slates? Like, it depends. Well, what does the small forward position look like today? Can you pay down at other places? That'll determine his ownership more than how many people like playing him 3 slates ago. No, I don't. I'm assuming that's what you're asking. I'm assuming that's what you're trying to do, but I don't see any correlation between that. I don't know. Clarify that for me. I just don't see what one thing has to do with the other. Why was this guy owned this time and not owned this time? Well, obviously the context of the slate. Even though if you take the past 50 slates, what is that going to do? John Johnson says, hey, Blender, took your advice and trusted the RotoGrinders projections. I won 100% of FanDuel cash games at a few GPPs by running the optimal and plugging in. Okay. There you go. You trust the math, right? That's how I do it. Just trust the math. Over a large sample size. Right? It's not just like, okay, one slate. Well, one slate, anything could happen, right? One slate, anything could happen. Like today's slate, who knows? We're playing a lot of Warriors today, right? Like looking at DK right now. I mean, this is the early projection, so don't go by anything. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Warriors on a 10-game slate. What could go wrong? Jordan Poole, we're doing that. Jordan Poole, Draymond Green, Mannion, assuming he starts instead of a Watermaker. Paying up for Harden, I guess. Depends. And I mean, obviously, the news has to come in. Who knows? There's 20 teams on this slate. The Warriors are at least what we know currently. Is there? I mean, what's the injury report look like? Let's at the salary. I mean, do we have any? We have Wall questionable. Is that going to matter? Does that mean we play Oladipo more? He's 8,300, and Wood's back. So remember, even though Wood may still be on a minutes limit, he's going to take away usage from like anyone else that's on the court for the Rockets. And these Rockets guys are priced as if Wood is like dead. So he's the only Q. Terrence Ross, does he matter? He may matter more on Fanduel. I don't think you play him at 6,500 on DraftKings. Is he going to matter for anyone else? So you play more Dwayne Bacon or something? I don't know. Fournier, he's 6,200. So yeah, they're playing Brooklyn. Uh-oh. We don't have that much. Carter Williams. Yeah, I guess the Magic we need something from. OG is probable. Yeah, there's not much. But this is when I get the most nervous. There's not much. There's not much on the injury report right now. And you know what's going to happen? 5:30 Eastern, right? 6 hours from now, the world explodes. Injury report starts piling up with people. So we have back-to-backs now, right? Is Washington playing? No, Washington's not. I mean, we got Minnesota. Is Towns going to play on a back-to-back? I'm assuming he does. He normally plays. We got some teams on back-to-backs. Is Kyrie Irving we have Irving? We have Irving is in. He's not even on the injury report. I'm just trying to guess. Like DeRozan's out. We got that. I'm just trying to guess where we're going to get screwed. We're going to have a lot of news at the same time. Because, I mean, really, out of a 10-game slate, we got 2 at 7:30. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 at 8, 1 at 9, and 2 at 10. So hopefully we could get anything that happens in these 8 o'clock games. We get like any type of, some guys out, new starting lineup type of thing we get before 7:30. And we could like really, maybe we get the Warriors lineup before lock. We don't have to worry about it. And we only have 3 games after that. See, this isn't that bad of a slate. Front load a lot of stuff. I prefer that than 2 games start at 7, and then some 2 games start at 8, and then 4 games start at 9, and then you're just sitting there. Half your lineup is filled out, and you're wondering what the hell's going to go on. Just going to keep on bitching about the NBA DFS until MLB comes back, right? We got 13 days. I think 13 days to MLB. People in the chat are trying to pronounce Frankie Ntilikina, his name, just like Schroeder, right? Dennis Schroeder. It says the double dot, the dot's on top, and he's German. Schroeder. Ronald Coley says some team is going to burn us. Just wait and see. Yeah, right. We all know what's happening, right? We've done this rodeo before. We all know what's happening. We just don't know who. We just don't know who. Something's going to happen. Butler's going to sit, something like that, right? He's not on the injury report. He'll sit. Maybe Kemba. No, Kemba already sat. Who knows? It'll be something. We could sit around guessing what it could be, and whatever we guess is going to be wrong. It's going to be something that we couldn't have possibly guessed. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. But I will answer your questions in the YouTube chat. Remember, it's Casual Fridays, casual questions. Hit the thumbs up button. Keep my apple juice cold. Genzo in the mix says he thinks Curry plays. Do we even have him in the projections? No. I mean, we always have someone that's doubtful, never in the projections. Yeah, that would be the news, right? We prepare for the Warriors value. then what ends up happening is Curry's playing, right? Curry and Oubre. They're both in, right? And then we have to scramble and go, why do we have Nico Mannion in our lineups? That could be it. We could be the reverse, where no one gets added to the injury report. People started coming off the injury report. Yeah, that'll wait. I'd rather have that. Then most likely you're just grabbing people out of your lineup and just now just like less value available. KJ says when MLB gets here, will he be doing 5% of your bankroll in each or 10% in each? 10% in each. I mean, the 20,000 I put in the spreadsheet is just an arbitrary number. 20,000 represents a little over 1% of 10% of my current bankroll. So I'm only playing 10% of that. So technically I'm only playing about 1% of my bankroll. So I'm very, very conservative. So yeah, no, I will be starting in MLB. I have another sheet right here. Didn't start just with all the, the div. I can make that so it nulls out, but I'm too lazy. But I'll be doing the same exact thing, 20,000 bankroll. And at the same time, right? So I'll be playing basketball and baseball at the same time, but I won't be playing NBA GPPs. I'll be playing MLB GPPs. So no, I'll do it at the same time. The money is here just for illustrative purposes. I could add a starting bankroll of 30,000 or 40,000 or 10,000 or 5,000. 20,000 seem good to me. Invest 20,000 and see what happens. So far, I've gotten 115% return over the course of what? It's been 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. It's pretty good. Can't get that anywhere else. Well, maybe if you buy some NFTs and you get stupid people to buy them, yeah, maybe you could flip those for that type of profit. Going back to the YouTube chat, Daniel Esri asks, is leaving 600 on FanDuel too much salary when you have plenty of value, like a 10-game slate? Yeah, why not? If you think that's the best lineup, then that's the best lineup. Who cares? FanDuel pricing is soft. So leaving 600 on the table, 59.4, what's wrong with that? Does the lineup have a ceiling to win a GPP? Yes, then there you go. Then done. You don't have to spend all of your salary. Be more inclined, in basketball especially, be more inclined to spend as much of your salary. Probably not leaving 3,000 on the table on a 10-game slate. On a 2-game slate, yeah, maybe. Much different in baseball. Like baseball, if you wanted to leave 2,000 on the table, that could be the nuts. Because almost all the batters are going to get about the same amount of opportunities. About. Same for the pitchers. So like, the expensive teams, if you have the Dodgers and the Yankees on the slate and they get blanked, it's like, well, the winning lineup could leave 4,000 on the table. The ace pitcher gets blown up or something, only puts up 13 points. Like, well, you didn't have to spend 11.6 there. So that happened a lot more in baseball because if it's event driven than in basketball where like kind of time equals money. Most likely just raw points wise that, a 10K player, like on this slate, it's very unlikely that on a 10-game, especially on a 10-game slate, that like none of these guys that are at 9K or above put up enough points that you still need the raw points. You're not going to see a 3K player that just comes out of the blue and in 7 minutes scores 70 points. Like it doesn't happen. In baseball, it could happen. In MLB. Right? $3,200 seventh hitter for some team has 3 home runs in the game. Like that could happen. That's realistically could happen. 2 home runs in the game, something. And then Mike Trout or Bellinger or Yelich or whatever has nothing. And he paid $6,000 for them instead of $3,200. Like that happens often in baseball. In basketball, that doesn't happen that often. The expensive guys are going to put up enough raw points that you're not going to, instead of playing James Harden, I'm going to leave 7,000 on the table and play, someone else, like Kendrick Nunn or something. and just leave 7,000 on the table. You're unlikely to do that. Harden's going to put up more raw points than Kendrick Nunn, like 90+% of the time. Jonathan Laureano, using game theory, what's the best way to approach the NCAA tournament? It depends on the bracket that you're in. Depends on the point system. It all depends on like how it's scored. Traditional style, like when I in office pools, I've won NCAA tournament pools nearly every one of them. When I did office ones when I was younger. You know what you do? All you have to do is take the top seed and go all the way through. That's it. But those are for small office pools. Not for 100, 200, 300. I'm talking about it small, 10, 15 people. Because you know why? Because most people tend to put more upsets than will actually happen. And while there may be upsets, predicting which ones, who knows? And a lot of times the bracket, you get more points for the later games. So you may get 5 points for first round, 10 points for second round, 15 for third round. So it's like if you picked an upset and they don't get there, like you're going to lose about all these points potential. So to me, I just pick all the top seeds, 1/16, 2/15, whatever. Just literally every favorite wins. Then when you get to the final four, whoever would be the favorites in those, and there you go, done. But you're doing that game theory wise because you're assuming that your opponents are going to be too contrary based on that scoring system. Now, if it's a different type of scoring system, I don't know. But typically I win by just picking favorites the entire way through. I don't even have to know the teams. When I was doing the poker club, that's exactly what I would do. Oh, we're running a pool, whatever, with like 50 people or whatever. I won that just by picking the 1 seeds all the way through. And then the top seed won the tournament. So like, what else do you have to do? Everyone else was picking 4 teams to beat 3s. You know, they picked the 10s to beat the 7s or whatever in that range. And yes, some of them will happen, but you only get like 5 points for them. 10 points or something like that. Like if you don't have all those, you don't have the final 4 right. Yeah, great. You predicted 3 upsets in the first round. But you didn't get it. You only have 1 out of your selections in the final 4. I got 3 out of them. Right? The 3 number 1 seeds and some 7 seed that got there. Or I have 2 of them and everyone else has 1. So to me, but that would be for small contests. You're playing against, 10,000 other people. Then, some outlier is going to win. So now you have to have a different strategy. John Johnson, I've never played MLB DFS. What would you recommend a newbie to do if they wanted to get started this season? I currently only have the RotoGrinders NBA subscription. Well, I'd suggest you get the combo premium subscription. Right? If you can play NBA and MLB, it also includes all the other sports also, other than NASCAR. PGA, MMA, soccer, NHL, everything like that. Click on the link in the description, get $10 off your first month. I'm not sure if you could get $10 if you're already a subscriber, but whatever. But yeah, so we got cheeses. Dave Potts writes an article long every day for premium members. We obviously got the projections. You don't need Cardi's the bat projections. They're the best projections in the industry, but RotoGrinders projections are pretty good. And then we have tons of tutorials. I don't know. You may have access. If you have an NBA subscription, you may have access to all of Roto Academy as it is. So if you go to the tutorial section on the RotoGrinders videos page, that me and Britt and Cards and Cheese and a whole bunch of people, we've done like tutorials for the past like 2 or 3 years. You go through and the lineup HQ tutorials and strategy tutorials, stacking tutorials. I mean, there's also articles. I mean, I think Noto has done some baseball stuff. Maybe he has some stuff in Roto Academy. Like it's all there. So I would suggest reading up on that and watching those videos. But to me, MLB is the easiest, one of the easiest. I mean, easiest team sport out of the major team sports, like compared to NFL or NBA, the easiest GPP one to play. That's pretty much a stack, right? If you pick two teams to stack in a lineup and two pitchers, you can't be completely wrong. If you're playing large field GPP, like on DraftKings, if you're going to do 5-3, five batters from one team, 3 batters from the other team, not in the same game. It doesn't have. It could be, but it's 2 teams, and then whatever 2 pitchers fit or whatever. If you made lineups like that, you're not going to be completely wrong. I mean, do those 2 teams score a ton of runs? Who knows? But as far as the lineup construction, the ceiling potential of those lineups with the correlation, that's how you should be building. So if you go into the slate and say, okay, I'm going to stack, obviously the pricing matters. Obviously the better teams are higher priced. He's like, I'm going to stack the Twins and the Giants. 5 Twins, 3 Giants, 2 pitchers, you're done, whatever fits. Right? Certain teams have certain positions depending on the batting order. Right? We always hate those teams where they seem to have 4 outfielders in a row. It's like it's hard to stack those types of teams. You want those middle infielders and catchers to fill those in. It makes it easier. But that's pretty much what you'll be doing. Obviously, people tend to stack the teams that have higher team totals tend to be more popular. Very similar to any other sport, right? In NFL, when we have a game has a 59 total, you'd be pretty sure the next highest total is 48. That game's going to be heavily owned. More points are expected to be scored. Same thing for baseball. That's why we have the Rockies, right? When the team's playing Colorado, because the ballpark factor is so big there. Team, when the game total is 13, the next highest total is 9.5. It's like, I think if you're playing in cores, the prices come up because of it, but people still stack. Those teams will be popular. The Dodgers have a 6.7 implied run total. They'll be popular. The teams that are 2.8 implied run total because they're facing, Jacob deGrom, probably not going to be popular. It's really not that complicated. GPPs in for baseball, it's a lot of leverage. It's a lot of correlation and leverage. The projection almost doesn't matter as much. All right, Doug Sellier says, I use a combination of Dave Potts' insight and the bat to create lineups. Yeah, that's, to me, that's the classic combo, right? Cheese, right? I mean, he writes like 5,000 words a day. Every weekday. So Monday through Friday for premium members. And he's won $1 million twice in baseball. And he's in the season-long baseball Hall of Fame for fantasy baseball. I don't know if there's but between Cheese and Cardi, that's like the 2 people that know the most about baseball, probably in the industry. And you get that with your you get Cheese with your premium subscription to RotoGrinders. And you get the bat if you want to add it on. I think it's $300 for the year for the bat. But let me tell you, the RotoGrinders projections are still good. The bat just takes into account like 200 more variables. Brian Broderdorf, am I pronouncing that right? Do you see value in sacrificing a small amount of median in NBA cash games to increase late swap flexibility? Yeah, sure. There's value in sacrificing a small amount of median in cash games for any reason. To lower your variance. Because the medians don't take into account the standard deviation of the players. So if we have a lineup that is at 280 versus 279.5, the lineup with 280 may have the highest median, but it may have a player there that's like totally boom or bust. It's like this guy could score like 8 points. Alex Len, there's a good example. Someone whose minutes could be 13 or 30, right? He's starting, but who knows? He could foul out or score 50 points. Like, If the 280 lineup has Alex Len and the 279.5 lineup doesn't have Alex Len, it may be more beneficial to play the slightly lower projected line to limit your variance. You're sacrificing a half a point to lower the variance of your results. If you find that worth it to do, I think that's perfectly viable. That's a lot of cash players, that is what they do. So if you see late swap flexibility, there's maybe you sacrifice a half a point for that. Maybe that's fine. I've done that in football before, in NFL. Get more information. Go if like the difference. If there's a small difference, a tiebreaker between two wide receivers or something. I mean, many times I would just choose the late wide receiver. The difference is 0.1. Because I can now take a look at my lineup, how it has performed in the 1 o'clock games, in the early set of games, and then be able to swap. And now I have a 2v2, 3v3. Do I have to make up ground? Do I have to block in cash games? You get more information. But I'm not going to purposely play later players that are much lower projected just because they're later. How much projection sacrifice are you willing to make? Probably not that much. I'm not going to sacrifice 3 points for that. But you could consider it, yes. Jonathan Laureano says, I hate Coors nights in MLB. No, I love them. I love Coors because I usually don't play Coors. Usually I play Coors when Coors isn't owned, which is, it's rare. But it happens. It happens some slates. You get some gas can, some like very well-known gas can on the mound in some other game. You know, they're playing in Cincinnati or something, or in Fenway, another like good hitters park. And it's like, oh, gas can versus whatever, and then everyone's playing that. Then Coors ends up becoming under-owned. Doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. Ronald Coley, are you likely to include the catcher in the stack? Typically, in MLB, there aren't many good hitting catchers. There aren't. You get like a Gary Sanchez, and he strikes out all the time. JT Realmuto, Yasmani Grandal, there aren't many of them. So when it comes to like anyone that all the other catchers are kind of like just whatever. So why would I be playing a $3,200 one-off, Drew Butera or something versus a $2,700 some other? I mean, they're all interchangeable. So why not get the benefit of correlation by having, if I'm stacking a team, I'm more likely to use the catcher, no matter where they are in the batting order. I don't care. Just if I'm not paying for a premium catcher, I'm more likely to just use whatever correlates with the rest of my lineup. Because the differences between those catchers are going to be so marginal. Then why am I going to play a one-off? Why? I'm stacking the Dodgers. Okay, there, you throw in Will Smith or whatever. You're stacking the Twins, you throw, like maybe Mitch Garver, there's another one that could hit well. Sometimes he doesn't play. But whoever the catcher is, right? Yan Gomes, right? We have that for the Nationals. You play him a lot. If you stack, Soto, right? You're playing Soto and Kendrick. It's like, well, I'm already playing the Nationals. Yan Gomes is batting 7th for like 3,000 to throw him in. Either that or I'm paying up for like Realmuto. If I have the Phillies, if I have a Phillies 3-man or something, then maybe you're playing the, I don't know. Is he on the Phillies anymore? I don't know. I don't pay attention to who's on what team until like the day before the first slate of the year. So I have no idea what's going on. But yeah, but that's the main reason. But outside of the premium catchers, all the rest of the catchers pretty much project virtually so close to each other. But what type of choice am I making? Just make it easier on myself. They're the 5th guy in the stack. That's why when people ask me on shows or anything or in the Discord, well, what do you like at catcher? It's like whatever goes along with the lineup, man. Catcher sucks. A lot of times shortstop does also. Second base and shortstop, middle infield. Depends on the slate. Sometimes you get good ones. Sometimes you don't. Then you look and you go, why am I paying up at second base? It's like Max Muncy and then garbage. So it's like if I'm not paying up for Max Muncy, just got whatever second baseman's in the stack, or it doesn't matter. If I'm playing Nick Madrigal or whoever on the White Sox or some ninth hitter, Danny Mendick, I think he was someone like that, then whatever. That is what it is. Ronald Coley asks, okay, there's a better question with FanDuel. Yeah, FanDuel, you just don't play the catchers. The catchers go under-owned on FanDuel. FanDuel's pricing is also softer, so you don't necessarily need to punt. But yeah, FanDuel has the catcher first base position. So you're unlikely to use catchers unless they're the premium catchers. Like the Remutos and Grandals and Sanchez's and those guys. Plus you have a utility spot as well. But no, typically the crappy catchers aren't even good hitters. But on DraftKings, there is a catcher spot. You have to roster a catcher. And typically on DraftKings, the salary range is wider. So on FanDuel, you'll have like 2,000, like 4,500. On DraftKings, you'll have like 2,500 to 6,000. So like a $2,500 catcher on DraftKings is much more of a punt than a $2,000 catcher on FanDuel. That's why you'll see with the softer pricing on FanDuel, you're not going to be playing that many 20. Oh, this guy is, it's 2,100. Like Jake Cave for the Twins is mispriced on DraftKings and he's 2,400. Like 2,400 is half the price of a $4,800 player. And a $4,800 player isn't even an expensive player when the cap is like 6,000, 6,200. You get a $2,000 player on FanDuel, he's half the price of Mike Trout, of like the best players. It would be the same as like a $3,200 player on FanDuel. So like the low price players on DraftKings, when they start getting like under 3K, are much more of a punt. So with the catchers, especially if I could play a $2,400 catcher and he's not much different than a $3,400 catcher, then why not save the 1,000, put it somewhere else? FanDuel, you really don't have to do that. I mean, it's very similar to NBA, right? The FanDuel pricing in NBA is soft. You're rarely playing. I mean, look at yesterday's slate. Look at it. Look, Frankie N and Chasson Randall were both 27% owned on DraftKings. On FanDuel, they weren't chalk at all. You didn't have to play these guys. Joe Ingles on FanDuel, I think, was 4,400 yesterday. Alec Burks was like 4,800. I mean, like Clarkson was under 6K. Like you could fit. You don't need these guys. You could fit everyone that you wanted. DraftKings, you can't. So that's why in DraftKings, the punts are much more viable, even in MLB. Coney Dog says, seems you would more often leave salary on the table in MLB then, depending on the team that you're stacking. Well, it's not more often or less often. It's just that it's not as much of a concern. Depends on the size of the slate. I mean, in MLB, we get a lot of big slates, 12, 13, 14 game slates. But I don't necessarily go out of my way. Like in like the builder rules or whatever, like my salary slider on DraftKings is typically like at like 49 or something. Something like that. I don't mind going under. It depends. And like I said, it's all slate dependent. Maybe I'm stacking a lot of cheap teams. Maybe I could leave 2,000 on the table in some lineups. So I'll adjust that. I'll adjust that slider. A lot of times you have a pitcher to pay up for. Instead of leaving 2,000 on the table and playing a $4,000 hitter, I'd rather just play Mookie Betts, right? I'd just rather give me Christian Yelich. They're going to project better anyway. So the only time that I'm leaving money on the table is just when it so happens that when the stacks come together that they only spend 49.2 or 48.8. But even then, you're not necessarily always stacking 5-3. Just do 5x, 5-1-1-1. Then those one-offs, I'd rather have Mookie Betts than some 4K hitter. In the long run, that'll work out. Okay. Casual Friday. It's Casual Friday. What are the Warriors going to do? Is Jordan Poole going to be chalk now because of his last game? Is that what's going to end up happening? 4,500. I mean, he played 24 minutes. Only played 24 minutes, but now Curry's out. Because Curry was in the last game. It's just that Oubre was out. Now they're both probably out. So we have him projected for 30 minutes. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I guess you got to play Jordan Poole. But you never know. He could end up playing 22 minutes. We don't know. But yeah, this looks like to be Warriors Day. Wiggins, Mannion, Green, Poole. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Stacking the Warriors on the road against the Grizzlies. Didn't you see, like, without Curry in the lineup, they're like the worst team ever or something? Like that their offensive efficiency is like 3 points worse than the worst team. Like they go that far down. So don't be surprised if you play Warriors and they dud. Right? Don't be surprised, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens today. Let's see what other shenanigans happen. You have to think there are 20 teams. Got to be shenanigans happening. Maybe it's going to be that Curry and Oubre end up playing and then just get rid of all that value. That quote value. Quote. Air quotes. So hit that thumbs up button, the like button on your way out the door for keeping my apple juice cold. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We'll be live. Grinders Live is at, because we have a 7:30 slate. It'll be 6 o'clock Eastern for Grinders Live with Dean and someone else. Be someone. It was Grant yesterday. I think I got it right yesterday. Be someone. Someone on with him, maybe 1 or 2 people. And then we got the premium show, Crunch Time, Andy Means, Kevin Roth, someone else. Someone else with them also, probably. That's for RotoGrinders premium members. You sign up for a RotoGrinders premium subscription. Click on the link in the show notes. Get $10 off your first month. And then you got, if you want to, all the concepts that I talk about are in my course, The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, the 15-hour audio masterclass, theoryofdfs.com. Teach you how to think like a professional DFS player. 15 hours. Here's the table of contents. Here's the chapters, game objectives, player selection, expected value, leverage, correlation, construction, risk management, exploits, psychology. All the stuff that I talk about on this show. It's all in one spot. Structured education for you. Gotten so many. Look at all these testimonials. Look at all of them. Get tons of email. Oh, I finally learned how to play. Been playing for 5 years. Haven't won a ding. Haven't won a dime. Been a losing player for 5 years. And I took your course, and a month later, it's like, oh, I'm actually making money. I'm actually doing well at this thing. Right. It's a math game. Learn the math. Learn the game theory of DFS. Doesn't matter what the sport is. NBA, MLB, PGA, doesn't matter. Same concepts. Just obviously different sports have different, priorities in the concepts. The variables mean more. We want to get that overall extensive DFS education, 15 hours of audio. Listen to me, and this will be valid like 5 years from now. Like this is evergreen. You could listen to it multiple times if you want. This won't go out of style. As long as DFS exists, this will have value. So go to theoryofdfs.com, pick that up, right? Even Meat Plow says it's a good class, right? If Mr. Plow, it's Plow approved. It's Meat Plow approved. Mr. Meat Plow likes it. So that's the only testimonial you'll ever need. So let's see what happens today with the Warriors. Let's see what other shenanigans happen. And I get 2 days off on the weekend. Great. Right? There's not even any soccer tomorrow. Or there is. I don't think I'm going to play there. There's some small slate or something. I get to sleep late, but I'll be back. I'll be back on Monday with James, right? Mondays with McCool. Getting ramped up for MLB. Can't wait for that. And then, you know what's going to end up happening. 2 months into MLB season, it'll be like, can't wait for NFL. That's the way it always goes. You got it like 2 months and then you just get sick of it. NBA has just been a headache. MLB probably not so much, but I don't know. They'll find a way to be a headache. But no matter what, I'll be here, as I always am, Mondays through Fridays at 11 o'clock Eastern to help you guys out. on the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders.com.